Sadness, hard times, and good times. If you're going through hard times, have faith that good times are on their way. With that said, good evening. We're delighted to welcome you, our dear readers, to Vidarbha Literary Festival run-up event. Now, we've all gone through hard times in this pandemic, and I'm sure each of us have had our own battle that we've fought. But what's important is we're here together in fantastic spirits and in great health. Can all of you all give me a big yay if you're excited for this event? Thank you. We would like to thank Sarthi Trust for their support and all members of LGBTQIA plus community who've come out to support this event. We'd like to acknowledge that your active participation means a lot to us. I would now like to request our Secretary for VLF, Mr. Sachin Shahagirdar, to officially begin this evening. Can I please have a round of applause for him?
Welcome you all on behalf of the entire VLF working group here. So last time when we met here, we discussed a very serious subject that was about the farmers' distress in this part of the country, Vidarbha region. So today we are discussing another different subject. Am I audible? No? Okay. So today we are discussing a different subject. Up next, that is on the day of Christmas, 25th December, we'll be talking about a book which is called What Millennials Want. The author has confirmed that he's coming here on 25th December, same time, same place. So look forward to meeting you again on 25th of December. That will be the fourth run-up event in this series of events that we take every month as part of the teaser for the main event that's happening in February 22. So probably the January event will be the last in this series. And whenever we start planning these events, two words, they haunt me. One is wave and another, guess, variant. ये हर रोज अखबार में मैं ये दो शब्दों को पढ़ता हूँ और मुझे बहुत डर लगता है प्लानिंग करते हुए, and we've been hit hard by, these waves and variants, and we had to cancel our event. So, that still haunts us. So hopefully if everything is fine, everything is well, we'll be able to, pull this up for you in February 22. Also, we have realized that Nagpur has suddenly, mushrooming and blooming with a lot of activities relating to the books, and which is a very good sign. We as VLF and the group of VLF has been pioneering this entire culture in this city, and I take pride in that. Incidentally, today we have, I would like to recognize two authors also here in the house, Siddharth and Vishal. So they both have written a book which is called Leadership Sings. Incidentally, they are in Nagpur today because they have a session tomorrow at Patrakar Club. It's also open event. Anybody who is interested in leadership and that subject, you all are requested to join us tomorrow at 10:30. Am I right, Pradeep? Yes, yeah. So 10:30 at Patrakar Club tomorrow. So welcome both of you. Thank you for having you here. So that is all from my side. Let's enjoy this session, and back to you, Arushi.
Thank you, Sachin, sir. Okay, so we've been talking for a while. Here's a little bit of question-answer session for the audience. Are you all ready? How many of you like to travel? Hands up, please. Thank you. And how many of you would like to have your own little rom-com where you travel the world with your partner? I know I am. I'm a sucker for rom-coms. So, at VLF, we are delighted to introduce to you a local author. Today, among us, we have Dr. Pratiksha Kashikar Mai, who will give you major couple goals with her book and perhaps a little bit of a dream of your own. She is a researcher, an entrepreneur, an avid traveler herself, and a writer. And she'll be talking about her book, Love Wanders the Globe. Please bear in mind that our job at VLF is to put forth the author and their original work. We provide a platform that encourages writing as an art form. We are merely a medium to amplify the talent and enable outreach to prospective publishers or sponsors. It is advised to the two parties involved to exercise due diligence should they wish to take this forward. With that said, can I please have a round of applause for our local author, Dr. Pratiksha Kashikar Mai.
I'm Dr. Pratiksha Mai. I usually write travel. So today I'll be telling you about my book, Love Wanders the Globe. So as she said, everybody who likes to travel, and if travel and romance can be combined, nothing like it. So I believe that romance is the foundation of any relationship. And somebody has rightly said that romance is the glamour that can convert a dusty thing into a golden haze. So that's what, my book would guide people about. So as we have seen, last year was very stressful for us. And in general, we all are living a very stressful life. And couples recently have been realizing that to come out of the stressful life, travel can be a real stress buster. And they are increasingly planning a lot of their trips and tours related to travel. And I think we all make use of Google when we have to plan something. And a lot of time, people don't have time to Google, so they look for ideas or talk to friends. So here's my book, Love Wanders the Globe, through which I've tried to narrate a sweet and simple story of the main characters, Rohan and Priya, who travel around the globe. And while discussing about their stories, they've talked about the ups and downs in their life, but how they had a positive attitude and how they rekindled the romance and added sparkle to their life. So this book, in general, travels around the globe. It covers the mysterious, say, Malaysia. It takes you to the adventures that you can have in the jungles of Pench and abroad. It talks about the beautiful, serene, the turquoise blue beaches of Maldives and Mauritius. A lot of time people, just travel, but this book will guide you that, okay, when you go to Maldives, then what you need to do. So, you can have the water bungalows, the romantic candlelight dinners and stuff. When you go to Bali, it will guide you, that you can have not just the general sightseeing, but, Bali is known for the luxurious spas and the open pools and a lot of other things which people might not be aware of. It also talks about the family vacations that couples can have. We have seen that parenthood is very stressful. So how you can travel with your kids and have family, vacations at, say, Singapore and, say, Hong Kong. The book slowly goes to other destinations. It talks about cruising in Singapore. It talks about cruising at the Greek islands. It takes you to Santorini and the beautiful sunsets. So basically, it's more of a travel book, and to spice it up, what things can be done for couples during their travel vacations. I don't want to leak on all the things because I would love that you all grab a copy and read on your own. So besides that, how to get rid of your stressful life, what things can be done at home, how you can have a wonderful Valentine's, how a normal destination can turn into an exotic event. So it talks about all these things. I think I should not talk much about my book because as I said, I'll leave that up to the readers. Thank you to the organizers, especially Sachin sir, for the opportunity, and all the best to Vidarbha Literature Festival. I'm sure it was going to be a grand event and a much awaited event in the coming days. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. If anybody else feels single, we can also ask her how to get the couple thing in, okay? And for people applying for world visa, tell me how to do that also. Okay, moving forward. Here's a quote, okay? We all should know that diversity makes for a rich tapestry. And we must understand that all threads of the tapestry are equal in value, no matter the color. Maya Angelou has elegantly put this into words what we must practice. To be inclusive. To be inclusive regardless of our personal preferences. To be inclusive about the differences we have amongst each other. To be inclusive about things that we don't understand but must accept. Going forth with this session, I would love for all of you to have open minds, but most importantly, open hearts to make the best of this experience. I would now like to introduce, and it is my absolute pleasure to do so, our moderator for this evening, Miss Prachi Arya. Prachi is a marketer, writer, and a photographer who excels in content creation. In her own words, she's a people's person who loves telling and listening to stories. She's worked as a creative lead at The Climber. She's also worked in Bangalore as an event curator and took special interest in taking interviews at the events that were catered to the youth. Her pronouns are she and her, and she identifies as a bisexual female. Can we please give it up for the dynamic Prachi Arya?
Okay, hi guys. So, enough about me. Let's talk about Vivek, who's here with us today. Vivek is an avid reader, a blogger, and besides that, Vivek also reviews a lot of books on his Instagram handle as well as on YouTube. And Vivek is the culture editor at the Verve magazine. Besides being a bibliophile, Vivek loves food and cats. An accidental writer, he wishes and indulges that there was more time to read and write in this world. A Bombay boy through and through, the sea is one of his loves. Men are also a part of his existence on and off. Vivek believes in the complete providence of fate. So Now You Know is his debut novel, and very soon with HarperCollins is coming up with his second novel, which is Strange Bedfellows, and which is releasing in February of 2022. Guys, please welcome Vivek. So Vivek, how are you feeling in Nagpur?
I'm always very nervous, but that's okay. That's fine.
Yeah, me too.
Good, we're on the same page.
Yes. Okay, so without any further ado, let's start the discussion. So Vivek, the very first question that I have for you is, the fact that you're an avid reader. I read even in your memoir that you started reading at a very early age. So every reader at some point has, this thing in their heads ki, yaar, I want to write my own book. I want to write for myself. So from being an avid reader to becoming a writer and publishing your own novel or a memoir, how was that journey for you?
So it's true, it was accidental. I just happened to walk into Penguin India office, then it wasn't merged with Random House, and I told them that, there's no literature on LGBTQIA. There's really nothing. Of course, there were cishet people including us as tokens in their books, but that's for a different time. And so the commissioning editor looked at me and said, why don't you write one? I said, sure, of course. So they commissioned me to write a novel, actually. And when I submitted the novel, it wasn't a novel, it was a memoir, which they thought was not fit for the young adult audience because it was supposed to be written for teens and late teens, really. So they canceled the contract, and then it went to HarperCollins. And that's how this memoir then became what it was because of HarperCollins. And and that's it. So,
Did you always intend on it being a memoir?
yes, because honestly, I can't write fiction. Fiction is not my thing. Sure, I can only talk about stories that have happened to me and my life, and hope that people can relate as I relate to other memoirs. And but I can't write fiction. It's just beyond me. I don't know why. I've tried, but this is just the second memoir that's going to be out, so I'm really not an expert at talking about writing as much as I am about reading, because that I do best.
Okay, so Vivek, I read in your book that many times kids, you see, get inspired by the people around them. They always look up to someone, there's someone they want to be like. But especially when you look at Bollywood, right? You see people in movies and you're like, I want to be like that hero, I want to be like that heroine. So what was it like for you growing up as a gay man? And what did it, who was your inspiration? Also seeing the fact that the depiction of LGBTQ community in Bollywood movies even is, it's...
Nothing has changed. It's still the same. Regressive, not inclusive, and even if they are trying to be inclusive, it's just one tokenism, right? Whether it is Shubh Mangal Zyada Savdhan, Ek Ladki Ko Dekha Tha Aisa Laga, and now Chandigarh Kare Ashiki. It's just all dribble. It's rubbish. They don't know how to portray us. They don't even want to hire us to write our own stories. Forget casting people from the community. So how can we look for, icons there? So we create our own icons. While growing up as a gay boy and gay teenager, my icons on screen were the women. I've written about it. It's Sridevi, Madhuri Dixit. Because to me, they were more empowered in the movies than the men. Really, because the men would do nothing. And you don't want such icons. And for a fact that, you used to read at that time that Sridevi made more money or equal money at that time as much as Amitabh Bachchan did for Khuda Gawai. And I don't know why I'm giving this trivia, but that really made you think as a teenager growing up in the country that, there's still hope. Because even today, when we say women are the minority, when we say LGBTQI plus is minority, and you have the cis-het male ruling the roost, and still doing what they do best, and entering all our spaces. See, that's my problem. You want to enter all our spaces, but then you don't get to speak for us. So that's why, I guess, the icons will never be them, ever.
So as you were growing up, when you were, seeing all these women on screen and you were like, this is what I want to be like. Does that ever made you question? Because as kids, when we're like exploring our sexuality and we don't know exactly where we're going, it confuses us, right? So what was that like for you?
See, growing up in the 90s and no exposure, it was the age before the internet. You didn't have terms, you didn't have terminology. You didn't know how to express your emotion. Nothing. What would you tell people? How do you feel? Why are you attracted to another boy? Why do you feel like dressing up like Sridevi and dancing in your own room? And why does your uncle slap you if you behave a certain way, you walk a certain way? There's no terminology, there's no language of identity, till there is, until you enforce it. And that's when, when I look at Gen Z, or any generation, even the millennials for that matter, we are adapting. We are evolving. And I think that's very, very important. And I think that's when it is so, even if it is a token, behavior, when you apply those pronouns and you ask for them, I think that is very, very empowering and extremely liberating, which I didn't have growing up. None of the people well, I'm not that old, but sure, in my generation didn't have growing up, as opposed to your generation, right? Because I think we didn't grow up with the internet. But on the other hand, when we did, we are still trying to adapt and work towards evolving, because it's a continuous process. So, sure.
So yeah, even when, I can say for that, when I was growing up, it was very different for me. Because for me, it was like, I knew the terminologies, I knew everything. And for me, it became this one thing, okay, maybe I am bisexual. And it was very different, right? So when you see this change, do you think actually the change is only happening for good, or are there like other things happening as well that you feel like are not as good enough?
See, good enough or not, I can only measure basis our bubble of privilege. The fact that we are here and in this air-conditioned space, and you and I are speaking about this, and my book is published in 2019, and a lot, and the fact that we are all on the internet, on social media, I think that speaks a lot about our privilege. And I don't know what's happening to the ones who are not so privileged and a part of the community. Nobody seems to be talking about them. Nobody seems to be talking about, DBA LGBTQI plus people. And that's not my space to talk about it. But I think we need to empower them to speak and their stories to come out, to understand the true landscape of LGBTQI plus community in India. I think it cannot be restricted to just one colonized language that rules the roost, and and not the other languages and what they think or what they feel. Because nobody's asked them.
Definitely. I agree to that as well. There was this one interesting part in your book where you were coming out to your parents. Yeah, so I really wanted to know from that point itself, what was it like for you? I mean, now it's very different when people are coming out. And at that time when you came out, you were 18, right?
Yes, I was 18.
So what is that like for you? Like, what are their reactions and How did it go on?
See, I came out in anger, all right, because one man decided not to reciprocate my love. And I was angry. I was like, how dare you? I was a jilted person. And I was like, okay, so what is the next best thing? Is to come out. And I didn't even realize. It just happened on my 18th birthday, really, and there was my extended family in the house, and I just came out. And they couldn't believe it. They first just dismissed it as a joke, or something that didn't happen to children from their families. It happened to other children in other families. And for a week, I just went on and on about it, and for a fortnight even. And then the usual happened. I was taken to a psychologist, and I was put on medication, thinking that the gayness, quote unquote, would go away. Their idea of conversion therapy, really.
Right, yeah.
But it didn't happen, because how can it go away? So, but I think the experience, in retrospect, I find it funny. But at that time, honestly, I was scared. That why did I do that? And just because a man didn't reciprocate my love, I mean, listen, it's a very not so logical reason, right? I mean, you can't do that. You can't inflict harm upon yourself. So I think if given a chance, perhaps I would come out a little later. If I had to do that again, not come out at 18.
If I may ask, what, when you were coming out, what were your exact words? Like, how did you go about the whole thing? And if you have any advice for coming out for people?
Listen, coming out is such a personal experience. Who am I to give any advice to anyone? Isn't it? I mean, let people find their own time, their own space. Let them learn to deal with their own emotions before coming out, right? That's not my advice, but it's a very personal thing. I'm nobody to give advice on that experience. And I love how the LGBTQI plus community or the queer community has taken agency of it. I think that is very important in 2021, to have that agency. I think maybe even I had that agency, but like I said, I didn't know better. I didn't know what was going on. And what I told them was, I just told them that I like other men. Because I dare tell them that I lusted after other men. That just wouldn't work in my Sindhi family. Oh, no way. So I just had to tell them I like other men. So that was that. And then they were like, oh, have you slept with any of them? I said, no way. So yeah, my family asked the most ridiculous questions without bothering about space, but that's okay. They're family.
Yeah, I get it, because a very similar thing happened with me too. Like, my mom asked me if you're gonna, my mom asked me if you would marry both a guy and a girl because you're bisexual, and I was like, no, it doesn't go on like that, not at all. I'm gonna marry.
But you can tell your mom about polyamory now, and not marriage, but polyamory is always an option.
Yeah.
I'm joking. You do you.
So, Vivek, can you read us something from your book?
Really? It's
Yes.
so embarrassing. No, please spare me that.
Please, it's such a nice book. We want you to read
Okay,
something.
listen, it's very embarrassing. Because, once I'm done with the book, I'm done. I don't want to look at it. It's that. It's really that. Because then all the flaws stare at me. And then I can't handle that. I'll be very honest. As a so-called amateur writer, and the editing in the book is bad. I must. So I can't read from it. Next book, I assure you, because I'm after my editor, and we are working on the edits as we speak. So I will read from that.
All right, no
Sorry,
problem.
Raj.
It's okay. So, Vivek, I read in your book that even when you were a kid, the bullying started very early on, right?
Yes.
And so, a lot of times kids don't have that empathy, or they don't know exactly, how to go about these things. And there was their friend called Deepak as well. So, when that first moment, when he said that, "Are you gay?" in your book, what were you feeling at that moment?
I felt denial, because, see, as a child or even as an adult, all you want is to be accepted. I have young people writing to me and telling me, sorry, younger people writing to me and telling me that, it's been a struggle. It's not been kind and it's not fair. And this happens today in 2021 even. And the time that I'm talking about is about 30 years ago. And things were very, very different. The fact that he even asked me that and the fact that I even knew what it meant was a big deal back then. And so I completely froze because I didn't know what to say. And yet the bullying wouldn't stop. I think that continued for a very long time, irrespective of who I went and spoke with about it. I think today, again, the only reason I'm contrasting and comparing is because I feel very, very nice that, perhaps today it is not that severe. And even if it is, there are tools that people have that equip them to deal with that, which perhaps people of, again, my quote-unquote generation didn't have.
So,
But it doesn't mean that bullying doesn't exist and it's not severe even
definitely.
today. I think it's a real problem, and not just in person. In spaces of social media today, when I'm on Clubhouse or when I'm on Twitter or Facebook, I see there's a lot of bullying towards the LGBTQIA plus community, and it doesn't stop. It's relentless. People on Clubhouse in rooms ask why should we use pronouns, and they use the choicest of slurs against you. I mean, if you can adapt your vocabulary over and over again, depending on what new words are added in the OED, you definitely should learn how to use pronouns and how to respect people's identities. I think that's something that we have to teach our kids. I don't have children, and hell no, I'll never have children. But definitely for people who have kids, I think that needs to be taught to them.
So when we talk about pronouns, do you think it's something that will take some time? Or do you think just people would just, like Gen Z says?
No, sure, it will take time, Prachi, and it should take time. It is a process that needs a lot of work. It will not happen overnight. And I think even Gen Z needs to have patience, which perhaps they don't.
Yeah.
And the generations before them only have patience because and nothing else to contribute. But I think there needs to be some eye to eye that needs to be seen midway. You can't be militant about it. You have to understand where that person also comes from. And if someone is on the fence and is willing to learn, then extend a hand. I think also I agree that you don't want to do the emotional labor of teaching someone, which I see, and you want to keep telling them to Google it. But if you even extend 1 minute or 2 minutes of courtesy of explaining, and then ask them to Google it, I think that's okay.
Yeah.
But I see their point. But I think it will take a lot of time. See, 377 in person has been repealed. In our heads, it still exists. And that's the sad part of our society. Whether we like to admit to it or not, it exists in people's heads.
Yeah.
So, that's sad, right? But it's true.
So coming back to your book, did you always intend on the book being so light-hearted? Because when we talk about the LGBT community and, when any literature on the LGBT community, people think that it's going to be very sensitive and very serious and whatnot. But when I read your book, I was smiling half of the time.
See, again, it rolls back all to my privilege, honestly. And I think one must check it while doing anything, even if it is writing a book. And where I came from, yes, life was tough. Yes, it was difficult. I don't know if it was light-hearted. I didn't write it with that intent. I'll be very honest. And after that, people came and told me, oh, it's so light-hearted. I'm like, have I written a humorous book? I don't know. Because I was just writing what happened to me. Now, if that is funny, sure. But it wasn't at that time. But I think, like I said, as you grow older and you reflect on what's gone by, perhaps there's some element of, you do take it with some hand of lightness, just so that it is bearable. The memories are bearable, that you don't go through enough and more pain as you did at that time, so you recall it with some amount of happiness. And that's the thing about a memoir. You can sort of sift it in your hand like clay. because you are writing it. And I perhaps wanted to write it a certain way, even if some things didn't happen, which they did. I'm not making any claims here. But you want to perhaps even for posterity, if you're writing it down and it's there in ink and paper, you want it to, remember those tough times with some amount of lightness. Maybe that's why.
So Vivek, after all this discussion that we've had, that there's this huge change in the whole community, I would like to take this discussion towards allies.
Sure. Oh, please, let's talk about allies.
So, how do you think, like, even when you were growing up, how did you come across like people who wanted to help you out, or wanted to be allies, or were like there for you?
No, they weren't there for me. and no, they were not allies. Perhaps my sister was the only person who let me be. And I think that is the biggest act of an ally or allyship
Definitely.
that you can do,
Yeah.
is to let me be, and when I want to speak with you, you'll be there to listen. I do not want to hear your side of the story. I don't want to hear your experiences. I don't want to know about that gay friend, that lesbian friend, that queer friend, because I'm not interested. We are not handbags. We are not satchels. For you to carry us around. I'm not Stanford to carry Bradshaw, and I never will be. See, that's my idea, because I grew up in a time where, you used to call people fag hags. That's a terrible terminology. And I'm so glad it's out of the window today. And it is not fair or not right or not empathetic to both the cis-het woman and to the, cis gay man. It's just doing such a disservice, and that's not allyship. And just to write in your bio on any social media platform, ally doesn't make you an ally. Do work.
Yes, you have to
Do work.
Yes.
And if you can't do work, then keep quiet. Nobody wants you as an ally. Sorry. But, we've got enough and more.
Right. So, when we talk about allies, there are a lot of people who are like confused, like how exactly to go. Just like you said right now, you don't really have to do anything, right? You just have to be there for that person and just listen to them. So why do you think it's still such a big confusion in people's heads, and why do you think they're still not coming to terms with it?
Terms with what? Of being an ally or not a proper ally?
Not a proper ally.
No, I think they're just savior complex, no? Everybody wants to be Superman. You think I'm the victim. You want to save me, you want to save my soul, you want to fight for me, you don't want to let me speak for myself or for the people in the community. Why? As an ally, who asked you to save our souls? Who told you that we want saving? You will be the best person to do it for us. We don't go around telling cis-het people that, oh, we'll save you. We are very happy drinking away our life and being on an app. And I'm speaking for myself. But really, I think a lot of introspection is needed. Allies don't introspect. I think they think it's a trend. And that we are not a trend. Come on. We are a lifestyle. We are a community. We are one of you. And you cannot be you cannot show inclusivity by saying you're an ally. Do better. Do better. Do a lot better than just saying ally and putting that LGBTQI flag next to it. I hate that. I'm like, why are you doing this? I'm sorry, I'm being a little too passionate about it, but sure.
No one's stopping you. You have to be passionate about this.
I think allies need to get their act together. That's all I'm saying.
So even when we see now on social media that there's so many people who are now, actually coming out on social media, writing it in their bios that I'm bi-curious.
Yes.
So how do you think that will go on in the future? Do you think it's the whole LGBT community is just gonna get easier and more happier?
See, I don't know about that. We are far from ideal sometimes. And within the community, there are a lot of politics. I'm not going to get into that. I must say, though, it's becoming better. I must say that people are learning. Like earlier, I remember a decade ago, perhaps, people weren't inclusive within the community to, say, bisexual people or to trans people.
Yeah, I agree to that.
Yes, or the cis gay man is always at the top of the pyramid. Just by the virtue of being a man, we will always be at top of the pyramid of anything. And then comes, even though L is before G, in the acronym doesn't make us that way, right? We still think we are the supreme ego, ID. We are the, like Maslow's hierarchy needs, this LGBTQI hierarchy of needs, and we are right at the top. But I think that system should topple, and everybody should be given that equal space. So you cannot just say, oh, you're bisexual, oh, you're having fun both ways, oh, you're best of both worlds. I don't understand that. So I think when somebody is taking the courage to write bi-curious or accepted their identity anyway and making a point of telling the world about it through their bio, you just embrace them. And if you don't want to embrace them, walk away. It's as simple as that, even from people from the community. And so yeah, I mean, sure.
So how do you think, with 377 and everything else going on, how do you think our country is doing so far?
I don't see, as long as the right is not being too meddlesome, I'm fine. But you never know. You never know. And I'm not going to get there. But like I said, see, 377, we have still such a long way to go. We're talking about so many equal rights which haven't been given to us. Again, not my space to say because I've not done enough research. I don't know enough. I would love to know enough. Now for the trans right, that bill, the trans bill. There's so many terrible things about it. So I think those changes at the ground level, at the grassroots level, and people who are fighting for it are the true people who should actually be here talking about it. And I'm nobody to talk about what happens after 377 because my life is cushy. 377 repeal has not changed, something drastically in my life. Before 377 repeal also, I was the same person, going on same Grindr, same Tinder, wanting to get hooked up, living my life, very, very privileged, doing everything that life had planned for me. So nothing has changed here. But for whom it's changed, I think those voices need to be heard. And what will happen next? There are some people who would love to be in matrimony and would love for that recognition to come from the state. Maybe even I'm not one of those, but that's my personal preference. But there are people who want all those rights. I think it's high time that the state wakes up and gives it to us. So I think there's a long way to go.
How do you think we're doing, like, what are the small steps you think we can take to make a big change or make a big difference?
Asking me, I'm not the one to answer this, but I think we speak a lot about inclusion. Now it's time to put it into action.
Yeah.
And step by step. I think people within the community and people outside the community also need to wake up to the needs of people around them empathetically. Just be empathetic. It's not a big thing. It's not a big thing. If you can look at a stray animal on the road and be empathetic, what makes you not be empathetic to another human being? With a different identity, that's all. So the cat and the dog also has a different identity than you. But you are willing to do that. Right? I mean, so why can't you extend the same courtesy and grace to a fellow human being?
So coming back to the book, there was a part where you find this guy in your college, right? And the first day of college.
Yes.
And there's this thing called a gaydar as well. So
Gaydar is terrible. I think every man in the room is gay. But it's terrible. But go on.
So that was going to be my question.
What?
Like, how does, even for me, honestly speaking, it gets very difficult to understand who is a straight woman.
Isn't it?
Yeah, it's really difficult. And it's now that social media is there, it's
braver
Yeah.
to take that step.
It
to
is.
to slide into their DMs, but not in a creepy manner.
Yeah,
To say,
definitely.
hey, what's up?
At least now you can see in the bio.
Yes. And then say hi.
Yes.
You also like Frank Herbert's Dune, so did I, because I checked through your tweets. Let's
Yes.
talk.
So when we come to this topic of you meeting that guy and you guys going out to this place, Voodoo, as I remember, what was that first experience like for you? Because a lot of times when people go into clubs, even for that matter, they get a little uncomfortable. But being in a space where you know for a fact that all the people there are from your community and you're just not going to get judged there. What was
Oh
that
no,
like?
you're mistaken. People, nightclubs and bars are the places where your community judges you the most about what you wear,
Wear.
how you dance,
Yes.
how you look, are you fat enough, are you thin enough, what are you wearing, what are those shoes, why are they out of style, so a lot of things. Why are you wearing eyeliner, why are you wearing lipstick? But I was scared, I was petrified. That place smelled like pee, and they were only playing Madonna, which I love, goddess, but that's not the point. And the boy that I went with just got drunk and started making out with someone else. And I'm standing there looking at him and wondering, oh, this is how it works. Maybe I should have found someone else too. But all I wanted to do was go home, which I did, because I was scared. I didn't want to be seen there. And God forbid if there was a raid, I didn't want to be behind bars. I was scared. So that's it.
So when you talk about being scared in this situation, and the fact that even though you were at a place where you would have rather felt more differently,
Liberated, yeah.
liberated, yes, liberated is the word. So do you think that has changed today from then?
See, as someone who's in his late 30s, I don't attend queer parties anymore because I have some shame. I think it's a young people's space and let them be. And you don't have to go there like a daddy and be treated as one then. Can't handle it. My vanity is too much. So I'd rather not get judged by Gen Z. I'm okay being judged by millennials. But no, I don't. I have not been to a party in about over a decade now, so I don't know how it functions. People say, "Oh, come to Kitty Sue," or come. They drop names of places that I don't even know. So I'm very happy in my bubble, but I would love to one of these days when I feel a little more confident and a little courageous. I will perhaps take that step and see what happens there.
So when we actually talk about all these communities and all these meetups and everything else, it's not usually what people do is they make sure that heterosexual people don't know about this or any other stuff like that. Like a lot of that goes out in the LGBT community itself.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, because I used to go out with all my cis-het women friends to these parties. And of course, there were more gay men. But I used to take my women friends all the way. I've taken all my cis-het male cousins to these parties. I was like, education, come.
Makes a lot of sense.
I used to take them all the time. Like I said, I don't know how it works today. But they used to come with me. Haan, chalo, let's go. I'm like, come, let's go.
So I think it's then a very different scene than it is in Nagpur and in Mumbai, I feel,
Of
personally.
course. I mean, I don't know the scene in Nagpur. I know there's Grinder here also.
Yeah.
Thank God for that. Because it's not stopped buzzing. So I feel validated when I'm here. In Bombay, nobody bothers. But that's okay. So it's nice. I was asking Sukhada that, are there any, nightclub scenes? Are there any bars that I could go to? Here I can perhaps, step out. Well, nobody knows me and I don't care. And it's not about people knowing me as much as I don't care in another city. I think that anonymity really helps.
Definitely.
You go to, and that's why I think I love going from city to city. And I used to love doing that before the pandemic because it was easy. You feel less lonely than you do in your own city. So, yeah.
So, when we talk about you being in Bombay, does that actually make a difference living in a bigger city?
People are the same. Wishes sometimes, mostly all right, and not so honest and candid the way I would want them to be. Always ghosting for whatever reason. I'm going to heck with you. I don't deserve this. And yet I will delete the apps and again reinstall them, and the cycle will
Goes
continue
on.
day after
Yeah.
day after day. And I'll get irritated and I'll throw my phone away sometimes and again go back and see. At the pingo, somebody's messaged me. Let's just go see who it is. You know? But it's cool. That's life, I suppose.
What is the one thing that you would like to tell allies about us that you feel they're still confused about?
And who's confused?
Almost all of them.
Nobody is confused. About what?
I feel like almost all the allies that I've met, like you said.
Allies. I don't have anything to tell them. Didn't we speak about it? Listen, Prachi, really, what is there to tell them? We are all adults. Why should I tell them anything? If they want to, they'll be true allies.
For the people who want to become an ally or who are still, there's still people who feel like, I'm not sure if I want to,
Come to parties with us? No. Read up. Read more. Understand more. Don't watch Indian representation of LGBTQI people on screen.
Yeah, definitely.
Never watch that. Watch world cinema. Read literature. Read a lot of books. Understand our spaces. When we say that Madonna is such an icon, or Adele, or anybody, figure it out. Why?
Why?
Read articles that are relevant and not biased. Ask us. We'll educate you. Take that step. I'm not going to take that step. You take it. You want to be an ally. I think that's important, right?
So when we talk about the community, there's, like we were talking before about privilege.
Yes.
So even within the community, people of all ages and, all types of different places come in, but still there's, this bar of privilege there. So, what are your thoughts on that?
So, like I said earlier also, there's not enough in true inclusion. We don't want to break bread on the same table. And I think that's an inherent problem. Earlier, we didn't want to do it. Like there was, people used to say gay men hate lesbians, which is not true.
Not true.
But they used to say that, and I think they used to say that with good enough reason. But to take that, statement and then make it generic for the entire community is something that I don't know when that happened. But I think then the community needs to introspect. We all do. Me as a cis gay man, perhaps you as a bisexual person, somebody else as a lesbian, somebody else as a trans person. I think we all need to come together. The problem is I don't think we come together enough. Because we are too busy talking about our own problems.
Yeah.
And living our own bubbled lives.
Yeah.
Like, as a cis gay man, let me tell you, I don't think I have enough trans friends. Or heard their side enough.
Same.
Or bisexual people. Lesbians, yes, far and few in between, but mostly other cis gay men. What does that say about me? I'm closed.
Yeah.
And I think I'm making that effort, personally. And I think we all can, because we are all evolving. And I say that with the best example that I can give is of myself. It has taken a lot to reach out to people, to get to know them better. Because you're so lovely in your bubble and everything is great, but till it's not.
With that, I think we'll take the questions from the
God.
audience.
I'm scared.
I think it'll be exciting. It'll be exciting.
Sure, if you say so.
Thank you guys for the lovely session. For our audience, the question answers session is up. Can I please request all of y'all to be fearless but sensitive towards asking your questions? All right? So we'll be now taking questions, please. You can just simply raise your hand and a mic shall come through.
Yeah, hi Vivek. This is
Hi.
Pradeep Jeswani.
I'm sorry, what's your name?
This is Pradeep Jeswani.
Hi.
What would be that one thing, when given an option, you would like to change about you, about family, about community? I'm asking three things.
Wow, that's a loaded question. Changes. See, about me, there's a long list that I want to change. But I wish I had known about certain things earlier in my life than later, because that would have given me more perspective on different people who came into my life. So that's something that I would change. And this is generic. It's got nothing to do with LGBTQIA, but I think just in general. What I want to change about family, you said my family? Everything. I want to change everything about my family. But I think what I have seen with a small sample size, gay men share a very dramatic relationship with their mothers. I think with my mother, I want to change that. I want to make it a more healthier relationship, which it is not. So yes. About the community, I have nothing to say. I'm not a representative of the community really. Maybe I am, but a very, very small representative. So I'm not going to comment on that if that's all right. Thank you. Yes. The level of satisfaction was zero because you read it, you'll come to know. But the inspiration was, I was very gung-ho, sir. I really wanted to, I thought I was making a difference. I don't know. That is my silly mind, really. But inspiration was there. But honestly, I was just joking about the end result. I love the book. In some parts, in most parts I hate it, but I love it too. So yeah, thank you.
Can I please just request our audience, we love the spontaneity, but I promise everybody will get a chance to answer their questions. Raise your hands up and a mic shall come through.
Hi Vivek, this is
Hi.
Prabhu from Delhi. I'm also an author, but today it's about you.
Hello.
Yeah. So when you wrote this book, what is the kind of emotion that you want to invoke with the readers? Is it a sense of empathy towards the community, or do you also want people, fellow members of your community, to be able to get a voice, or is it just an overall entertaining read? So how would you like the reader to leave the book once he's through?
See, I was at the right place at the right time, even in the publication of this book, because honestly, publishing also comes with some privilege. Let's not forget that. There are people who perhaps have better stories than I do, and they don't see the light of the day for whatever reason. But I think what I want people to take away from this is just perhaps being a little more empathetic, that's all. And that's the only thing I want. There's nothing else really. Because I've worn my heart on my sleeve by writing this book. And that's about it. Thank you.
I think 2, 3 questions, but I'll stick to one now. I'll
Hi.
ask more if I get a chance.
Sure.
So I think the one I want to ask right now is, for me, in my mind, I believe that this will be a normal, I mean, I want to use normal in quotations, according to the society, when we believe that this is not something to be astonished about. Like right now, we think of it as being something very big. You know, I would rather, like, even if for my friends, I would say if somebody tells me that they are LGBTQ, any of the one, I would say it's nothing to be discussed. I mean, it's your personal entity. It's not very big in my head, at least for me. It's like your religion or your country. That's what I feel. Do you think it will be normalized more when that is not the only thing that is major about your identity? Like anybody who has come out is a lot of things more which can, be special about them. Somebody might be a great writer like you. Somebody might
Not
be
a great writer at all, trust me.
So I'm hoping you are. So, and somebody might be a great sports person. So why does this have to be a very big part of your identity rather than being just a part of it, like being from a country, being of some religion? And do you think that's when we start to feel it's normal in our heads? Because, we are ourselves not giving it that attention that it needs to be given. It's a normal thing. That's what I feel. So what do you think, your opinions on this, and how do you think we can change it if it needs to be changed?
Okay, great, thanks. Interesting question. So here's what I think, right? When you grow up fighting for your identity and fighting for your rights day in and day out, and you still do in most spaces, I think it's time to assert yourself even more. I will talk about my gayness and me being gay even more. And I'll do it 1,000 times more, only because I think it is more than just an identity to me. And, here's the deal. Being an Indian or coming from whatever religion, I don't have to fight for it. It is imposed on me anyway. I don't have to take my seat at the table and fight for my seat at the table like other people from the community we have to do every single day. So I think, and I'm not saying this with any kind of anger or irritation, don't get me wrong. All I'm saying is that I think perhaps that's when cishet people will not get it. And because the lives are different, opinions are different, lived realities are different. When cis gay men or people from the community sit together, there's a bond, only because we face the same things in different ways. No, it's not. No, I want to take
I'm
it.
sorry, you can take this question up personally with the author if you want later. Thank you.
No, but we will speak about it, so that's fine. All right. Hi.
Hi. Hi, Vivek. My name is Chinmay.
Sorry to interrupt, but mask up when you're even asking a question. Thank you.
Sorry.
Yeah. Hi, Vivek. My name is Chinmay. I wanted to ask about that awareness and acceptance of it. Do you think it has to do with literacy, education, and more of an acceptance? If you see that westernized culture or westernized countries, they are more acceptable. But countries like developing countries like India or Africa, you'll see there is a difference between being literate and being educated. So do you think more awareness or education does make a difference, or awareness does make a difference? What is your take on this? Do you see literacy rate has anything to do with it directly?
See, I went to a very, because of the privilege that I received, I went to a very elite school where I thought, people would be educated, people would be highly intelligent, people would understand, people would be empathetic. All they did was bully. All they did was perhaps actually use boys in that school. And I'm not very proud of it because it happened to me as well, but that's a different story. But my point is, literacy and education has got nothing to do with empathy, right? A person who's not literate or educated enough can still be empathetic, can still get it. My domestic worker at home gets me. And will understand and will empathize. It's got nothing to do with education. I think there are educated minds all over, but see how they behave on the internet, behind a screen. They are ravages. They're savages. They don't know any better. So I think it's got nothing to do with that. I mean, a PhD will not make you empathetic. I hope I've answered your question. I'm sorry? Awareness. But I just did. The entire conversation was about awareness. See, I'm not writing a 5-year policy here, but the measures that one can take, is, like I said, is understand people around you. I think we also very consciously, right, make that choice whether we want to get to know people better, understand spaces better. If you understand my space better, I will understand your space better. But people have also, they are very uncomfortable trying to understand my space. And when I say my, I mean community. Yeah. So,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Hey Vivek, this is
Hi.
Shalaka. I'm an author and a brand marketer. I have a question on what's your take about gender neutral communications?
About what?
Gender neutral communications.
Gender neutral communications.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
So, what's my take really? I think it should be encouraged. It should be used. People need to use gender neutrality where it should be. And I think, again, see, it's all linked to identity and to the pronouns, again, that we choose for ourselves and we assert them. And I think, isn't it sad that we have to keep doing that over and over again until people get it? I think and what's lovely is that a school in Kerala has started doing that in terms of uniforms. And with that, I think the terminology will also come. So I think those small steps will go a long way. I think it's not very difficult to emulate that. I think every school in the country should do it. Right? I mean, and I think you can't look at everything binary because nothing is binary now. Why don't we give non-binary people their space in the world? And again, I'm no representative of them because I'm not from that space. But I think it's time that, we become aware. People want to read about politics, people want to read about religion, people want to read about food that's eaten and food that's banned, and movies that are eaten and movies that are banned. Nobody seems to want to do their education on gender identities. Why? Well, that's something you need to ask yourself. Well, nobody wants to do it. It's not written about, it's not talked about. But the burden suddenly comes on the community to teach people. I think that's unfair.
Hi, this
Hi.
is Abhijit. So when it comes to awareness or the discussions about inclusion, specifically in gender or sexuality, I still feel that it's still a privileged discussion.
Of course.
It's still, and also just before coming here, I was listening to a startup pitch, and there was one startup which is by the name Coitopedia, which does sexual awareness. I think this discussion, what do you think are the ways and means to take these discussions more to the grassroots when it truly becomes inclusive, and we can say that there's inclusion happening with these subjects out there?
So I think that's a far-fetched thing that will take a lot of time to happen. We don't even think about grassroots, forget including them in our conversations. Till, somebody from that level comes up and talks to you. You will not even think about it. We'll never think about it. Neither will I, neither will you.
Exactly.
I think then we need to check ourselves and check our privilege and see how that works. And perhaps that acceptance of privilege is the first means to getting to really truly be inclusive by dropping other biases over a period of time.
Right. So just my question primarily was, how do we take this more?
Listen, I honestly am not the right person to answer that,
Thank you.
but we could talk about it later. I would love to know more from you. What do you think about it? I don't have all answers, but I would love to hear your points.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi Vivek, this is Anand. Now you have come out with your own story. I want to ask, if you get some more stories, will you be able to write a new book on it?
My stories,
Other stories.
other stories, they should write their own books. I'm nobody to tell their story.
Thank you.
I can help them publish it, but I can't talk about them. There's a card I can play with the publisher. Have 5 LGBTQIA books in your list every 3 months. Because cishet people have got enough and more. Get non-binary and LGBTQIA people doing it.
Hi Vivek,
Hi, hello.
this is Swapna. What is that one book or multiple books also that you can tell us by an LGBT author or LGBT inclusive story that really stayed with you and maybe is special to you, or you would want to recommend other people to also read about it?
Wow.
Thank you.
There's a series by Armistead Maupin called Tales of the City. And it's a 6-part series, which is also a Netflix series, which is a beautiful job of inclusion. And I think everybody should watch that and read the books. Thank you.
Hi Vivek,
Hello.
my name is Aditi. Hi.
Hi, Aditi.
So I'll start with a comment and end with a question.
I'm scared. Sure, go ahead.
So I calculated we are the exact same age.
Great.
Which is why I'm very. Why
Don't
have you
say
put
the
that?
age. Don't say the age.
I won't.
Okay.
Why have you put that misleading picture? I mean, it's.
Why
it
did I
was-
put one misleading?
Their
Hello.
picture.
Okay.
Because I was like, how come I don't look like that?
Pre-pandemic, post-pandemic, love it, love both. Not misleading. Still gets me laid even when they see this. So, love it.
Okay, so I.
Question.
You keep. That was the question.
That was a question? Terrible question.
I'm sorry. Please forgive me.
You body shamed me? How dare you?
Not at all.
I'll use my victim
will-
card now.
I will use my ageist card with you.
Just because you look the way you look?
Okay, listen. So when I read your book, I don't know why you keep saying it's a terrible book.
Oh, it is a terrible book.
Because see, I haven't. I've read about memoirs and how people wait for people to die before they can publish those memoirs because they are so scared to, write the things that they want to write. And this is probably one of the most honest books that I've written because
Just overcompensating for what you said earlier.
then why would I say that? I'll comment first and ask the question.
No. Go on, ask her.
So, that's my comment. That I can never be that honest, and I don't know how many of us can be that honest to actually pen those things. And you're writing about people who are all still in your lives. So I think that's very, very brave.
Listen, after they read the book, they're all out of my life.
It was worth it. I mean, completely worth it. So that was one of my
Thank you.
comments. Thank you for writing such an honest book.
Thank you for reading it.
we need more honest books, And my second comment was on something that Prachi said about being an ally. So I would, in spite of all that you said, I would call myself an ally. And I would like to define it.
I'm thinking about you as an ally now. Not a very good ally after that comment.
I apologize.
No, I'm joking. I joke.
So, I'm sure you know about Alok Menon, who's... Alok Menon,
Yes.
So Alok Menon said something beautiful about being an ally. They said that, being vulnerable is when you're willing to be wounded. And when you're an ally, you're willing to be wounded along with the person you're with. And I thought that was a beautiful, beautiful definition of, being an ally. And we keep, and I've heard this question earlier about how can you be an ally and, how do you, but I think it's a little, sorry.
Sorry for the interruption. Is there a question that we want to jump to directly?
No, I'm done.
Thank you.
Sorry.
No, and thank you. I was just kidding with you.
No, of course, yeah, thanks.
Yes,
Kidding
Vivek.
about the laying bit, though, I still get it. Hi.
Yes, Vivek, back with a bang. So, विवेक, जब हम इस बारे में बात करते हैं तो इंसान की सेक्सुअल आइडेंटिटी बहुत बड़ा सीक्रेट होता है. ओपनली लोग उसे रिवील नहीं करते, छुपाते हैं. नाउ दैट that identity is open, is there any untold secret which you haven't, is there any deep secret which you haven't shared with anyone? You can stay away from this question, it is your personal life.
Of course I'm going to stay away from this question. What makes you think I want to tell a room full of strangers about?
बट इसके बाद कोई ऐसा सीक्रेट रह जाता है लाइफ में जो आपने कभी शेयर नहीं किया, यू फील कि होना चाहिए.
मेरी जिंदगी अभी और आगे है और ज्यादा मैं जीऊंगा होपफुली. और ये बुक तो मतलब जब मैं 19 का था तब खत्म हो गई थी उस पे जाके ये किताब. तो आई एम श्योर देयर इज गोइंग टू बी मोर आफ्टर दैट एंड मे बी देयर विल बी मोर दैट आई वांट टू डाइवर्ज एंड मे बी नॉट. मे बी आई विल गिव माय नंबर इन द नेक्स्ट बुक, क्या पता. जोकिंग.
Can I please request our audience to have masks on when they ask your questions? Also, a crisp question is being defined on the slide above. So can we please keep restricted to questions? Thank you.
Yes.
Hi.
Hi Vivek, this is Nikunj. I'm an LGBT
Nikunj.
activist working in Nagpur since 16 years.
Thank you so much, Nikunj.
Yes.
A round of applause.
Yes.
You actually do, we say. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Yes, and I'm a proud to be a LGBT activist. And what I've seen, first of all, I want to comment on your book. So it feels so proud that this book is not as such the regular way book on the LGBT, full of drama or something. On a very lighter note.
Listen, there's a lot of drama.
Yes, there is drama, but there are like lots of emotions and a sad story. It only I'm talking about. It's not just about the sad story.
No, Meena Kumari, huh?
Yes,
That's what
yes.
you're saying.
So feeling so proud about it.
I love Meena Kumari.
Yeah.
Question, please.
Yes. My question was, can you write a book regarding what are the differences between sex, gender identity, and sexuality? It is also for the ally to understand, because if somebody want to be an ally, so first they have to know what are the difference between sex and gender first. I thought like people don't know the difference between sex and gender also. And forget about the gender identity and sexualities. So if there will be a book regarding these four terminologies, sex, gender identity, and sexuality, it would be very helpful for the allies also to support the LGBTQ community.
I think Nikunj, you'll be the best person with your activism to write that book, and I encourage you and I urge you to write that book. I think we should do it. I should do it starting today, so that we can pitch it to a publisher. And I'm not even joking about it. I'm going to exchange my number with you, and you're going to do this. All right? Thank you very much.
Hello. Yeah. Hi, Vivek, this side. VL.
Hello.
My question is short. Is the dating culture, all the dating apps, helping to bring a more inclusive society for LGBTQI
There's a
community?
hookup culture. I don't know about dating culture.
Yes, I know that. It might be an off-track question, but
No.
just
For
curious.
for the gays, it's the hookup culture. For the others, there's a dating culture. I'm joking. Listen, I don't know. There is a dating culture. But you know what? It's just, it's a very different playground that the LGBTQI plus community plays when it comes to dating. It's a different dance. There are different rules. Sometimes there are no rules. But I think that's, again, very, very liberating. And sorry, I didn't get your question.
Is the dating apps helping to bring a more inclusive society because of the space that it can give to open up and,
No, honestly, I think they're not doing a good enough job. Because again, there it's all about what I choose to put in my profile, which pictures I choose to catfish, and then they see this person. No, it's a serious problem, it is. Because it's all about your appearance on a dating app. It's never about the person that you are. I may tell them that I'm an author, I've written a book, but they won't care. But do they care about other things and other sizes? Yeah, sure. So that's a tragedy, but it can't do much about it.
Thank you.
Culture needs to change, perhaps.
Guys, this is the last question. The author will be available for a chat after the event, although this is the last official question we're taking.
I'll be available after this. Oh. But thank you very much for that.
Since we don't have a last question, how can we let Vivek go away without talking about reading and books? So I think Prachi has some questions for reading and books.
Sure, come on.
Yeah, so Vivek, I saw on your Instagram handle that you read almost more than 200 books in a year. So how... yeah. So for any reader to, actually go ahead and hit that number, how did you hit that number in the first place?
I shut myself in my room with my 2 cats. I had a job that was paying me without doing anything. Yay. My mother didn't force me to cook or clean the house during the pandemic. And what else happened? I didn't watch Netflix. So I didn't consume that content. On and off I used to, but more or less I didn't. So, yes.
What are some books that you would recommend for an ally to definitely read? And also for the people in the community.
Go through my Instagram. No. So some books, like I said, Tales of the City by Armistead Maupin. There's a book called And the Band Played On. It's about HIV and the LGBTQI plus community during that time in New York, which I think lends a lot of perspective. There is Funny Boy by Shyam Selvadurai. There is, what else is there? There's The Golden Gate by Vikram Seth, which has bisections. So yes, what else? There's Let's Get Back to the Party, whose author's name I've forgotten. So there's a lot of literature actually, and I can't remember. But whatever I remember at the top of my head.
We can see it on your Instagram, right?
Yes, thank you.
So, Vivek, any tips or advice on going ahead, starting to read more LGBTQI books and...
Listen, you can't give them a tip to read more LGBTQI plus books. They need to do it on their own. How can I force it down your throat or tell you, oh, read that? That's not my job. You do it on your own. I mean, there are lists all over. Like I said, everybody wants that share of the pie. Every website comes up. June is the month where they suddenly wake up that, oh, this community exists. Yeah. Oh, look, we are reading LGBTQI plus books in June. What about the rest of the year? Do you care? Do brands care? Does anybody care? So, yeah, I mean, if I could say and use choicest of words for the brands, I would, but I can't because this is a family event. But really, let's. I think we need to really, really reflect Why? Why should only, why? Does anybody know about Stonewall? Does anybody know about what happened to the LGBTQI movement in India across the states, across different types of people? I think read up, do your own education. There's no one-on-one syllabus here. And if they have to create one, then pay me for it. It's only fair. No, not you pay me. I'm saying in general people.
So, no, I was just asking if we have more time, that's all.
Don't we? If you do ask, it's okay.
So, Vivek, you also have a blog, right? The Hungry Reader. So, how do you go about the blog and everything else in the blog, and why should one come to your blog?
I don't know why should one come to my blog. You're asking me tough questions. But the blog was there in 2009. I mean, it's been about 13 years since that blog exists, and people come when they want to, people don't come when they want to. It's all right.
So you see all type of book reviews in your blogs, right?
Only book reviews, yes.
Only book reviews.
So you're not going to get my life. For that, buy the book.
On that note, can you tell us your current reads?
My current reads, I'm reading a book called The Child by a Norwegian writer whose name I've forgotten. I'm reading a book called The President and the Frog, which is a magic realism book by this Spanish writer called Carolina de Robertis. And I'm going back to reading 100 Years of Solitude, which is one of my favorite books by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. And of course, I'm going to reread Cobalt Blue before it releases on the 3rd of December, which I think everyone should watch. Because the director, who's also queer, has directed it, and he's the writer, of course, of the book. So, which I think will do a great job. That's great representation, right there. Thank God for no Ayushman Khurrana in it.
All right, that's it for the session. Thank you so much, Vivek, for being with us.
Thank you so much, Prachi. You were very, very kind to me. Thank you everyone for coming.
Thank you so
Thanks
much,
a lot.
everyone.
Thank you, Vivek. Thank you, Prachi, for this amazing session. We would also like to thank Sarthi Foundation, and we would like to acknowledge their efforts for supporting the LGBTQIA community in the city. And can I please request Mr. Anand Chandrani and Mr. Tanveer Mirza to present this token of appreciation to Vivek. This is a painting that is brought to you by Lipi Chopra. She works with the Alag Angle Community Arts Center, is our VLF patron. Can we have a huge round of applause for this amazing session, guys? To wrap up everything that has been talked about, right from kindness to inclusivity, Charles Glassman defines kindness as kindness begins with an understanding that we all struggle. And it's true, right? In this woke culture that is adapting and evolving continuously, like Vivek, Tejuja said, I struggle also to put forth my questions in the fear of stepping on others' toes or unintentionally hurting someone. But Vivek has spoken about this enough today, saying that if you are an ally, if you are somebody who would like to support this community, do your own research. Don't be afraid to ask questions, to educate yourself first, and then ask questions to people who are willing to educate you too. But do that with a little bit of sensitivity, because this defines their entire life. So here's my takeaway. Let's all help each other learn and understand and accept that which we can't. To strive each day to be kind and inclusive. Thank you so much for our LGBTQIA community, for everyone who's come out for this event. We're delighted to have you here. For our sponsors, the Caldris Emirates Group and SMS Limited Group. The books that we have been talking about for the past hour is available for sale. Y'all can buy it from here after the event. Can we please have another round of applause for our activists in the group, in the crowd, for Anand Chandrani, the founder of the Sarthi Trust, for supporting the LGBTQIA community. Here's to empowerment and making sure you can empower others. We're not done yet. There's another way you can be a part of VLF. So VLF has different spaces where you can be a part of. You can be a volunteer, you can be a patron, you can be a sponsor. You can see a lot of volunteers who've been roaming around this room quite a bit in this session. So you can reach out to any of us. And this is me, Arushi Golcha, signing off for this day. Thank you so much all for being here.